رمضان تجلى وابتسم، طوبى للعبد إذا تنما، فالخير وفير إن صرما، ينجي المأثوم من النار.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. كل نفس بما كسبت رهينة، إلا أصحاب اليمين، في جنات يتساءلون عن المجرمين. ما سلككم في سقر؟ في جنات يتساءلون عن المجرمين. ما سلككم في سقر؟ قالوا لم نك من المصلين ولم نك نطعم المسكين وكنا نخوض مع الخائضين وكنا نكذب بيوم الدين حتى أتانا اليقين. صدق الله العلي العظيم. اللهم اجعل القرآن لنا في الدنيا قرينا، وفي القبر مونسا، وفي القيامة شفيعا، وعلى الصراط نورا ودليلا، وفي الجنة رفيقا، وعلى النار سترا وحجابا، برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. رحم الله لمن يقرأ الفاتحة مع الإخلاص والصلوات. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Respected brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept your a'mal and your du'as and your fasting in this holy month of Ramadan. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala count us among the true companions of Imam-a-Zaman, Ajjalallahu ta'ala farajahu sharif. Today I'm going to translate a very important ayat al-Quran, the verses of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the verses of the Quran, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in these verses teaches us very important factors in our life. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will explain us the conditions of guilty ones in the hellfire. What is this ayat? Ayat 39, Surah Mubarakah al-Muddathir. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Kullu nafsin bima kasabat rahina. Every soul is pledged for what it has earned. That means over there at the day of judgment, everyone will get their reward according to what they did in dunya. That means if I did good deeds in dunya, I will receive goods. But if God forbid, if I did a lot of bad deeds in dunya, I will receive my punishment. So over there, everything will be late. We cannot do anything over there. The dunya is the time to do the good a'mal and good deeds. Because after this dunya, it's going to be too late. But only one group of people will be so happy and they will not have any stress. Those people are Ashabul Yameen, the people who actually followed the law of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in dunya. So in akhirat, they will not be stressed. They will not be stressed out. They will not be under any pressure. They will be so happy. Illa ashab al-yameen, except those on the right hand. That means they will get their certificate, their namat al-a'mal on their right hand because they did good deeds in dunya. Fi jannati yatasa'alun, they will be in gardens asking one another. Anil mujrimeen, concerning the guilty ones. That means they will ask from mujrimeen, from guilty ones. When they go to the akhirat and they get their certificate on their right hand and they are getting ready to go to the paradise, at that moment they will ask a question from guilty ones. The ones that they are going to Jahannam or they are already in Jahannam. Ma salakakum fi saqar. What has brought you into the fire of hell? Why are you in hellfire? Why are you in Jahannam? What is the reason? The Ashab al-Yameen is done. They're already happy. But now they're concerned about those people who are the guilty ones. And they are actually confused what happened. Why are they going to the hellfire? Why are they going to Jahannam? Ma salakakum fi saqar. What has brought you into the fire of the hell? قَالُوا لَمْ نَكُ مِنَ الْمُسَلِّينَ. Then they explain the reasons that they are going to Jahannam. That means because of these reasons, they are now going to Jahannam and the hellfire and they will get punished forever. Number one, قَالُوا لَمْ نَكُ مِنَ الْمُسَلِّينَ. They will say, we were not of those who offered prayers. That means we were not, they will say that we were not praying in dunya. We were not paying attention to our namaz. Namaz was the last thing for us. We were not performing namaz. At least if some of us were, some people unfortunately perform namaz, but not a good namaz. They don't care about their namaz, doing or not doing it. So these people will say that the first reason that we are going to Jahannam is because of our namaz, because we did not perform our namaz perfectly. What is the second reason that they go to the hellfire? وَلَمْ نَكُنْ نُطْعِمُ الْمِسْكِينَ. Nor did we feed the poor. That means we did not feed the poor people. Brothers and sisters, sometimes the poor people are around us. During the COVID, how many people, how many mu'mineen lost their jobs? They have abaru, they have reputation. They don't want to come to you. They don't want to say anything. They don't want to complain because they are mu'min. But some of them, they lost their houses. They lost their cars. They lost a lot of things. And they are stressed out. But some of us, we have, alhamdulillah, a good life. And we can help them from the wujuhat, from the homes, from the Islamic taxes. So we have to help them. And these people say, the second reason that we are actually going to the hellfire is because of this, that we did not take care of the poor people. وَكُنَّا نَخُوضُ مَعَ الْخَائِضِينَ. And we were always friend with bad people, with people who were not mu'min. What was the other reason? وَكُنَّا نُكَذِّبُ بِيَوْمِ الدِّينِ. And we used to deny the day of judgment. We were denying the day of judgment. We were telling everyone there's no day of judgment. Nothing is going to happen. Once you die, everything is going to be finished. Your body is expired. That's it. No Jahannam, no hellfire, nothing. We were thinking like this. A lot of people, unfortunately, right now we see around that a lot of people, they even call themselves Muslim, but they do a lot of bad deeds because they do not have any submission to the hereafter. They do not have any submission to the day of judgment. They do not want to submit themselves to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's why these people are very dangerous people. And they will come across with a lot of punishment at the day of judgment. And they say, yes, the other reason that actually we are going to the hellfire because of that is because we were denying the day of judgment. Hatta atana al-yaqeen. Until death overtook us. Until we died and we saw everything. Because Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, An-nasu niyamu. That means the people are asleep. When you're alive, you're kind of sleeping. When we die, then that time we will be awakened. We will wake up after our death. Because the yaqeen is going to come. We're going to see the haqiqat. Our eyes will get open. We're going to see good things and bad things. That's why the bad people, the guilty ones, who did a lot of bad things and bad deeds in dunya, when they leave the dunya, they say, رَبِّ ارْجِعُونِي لَعَلِّي أَعْمَلُ صَالِحًا فِي مَا تَرَكْتُ. Oh Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, bring me back to dunya. I want to do good deeds, good a'mal. But it says, the ayah says, no way, kalla, it's not going to happen. You had a lot of chance. You had chance to pray. You had chance to give your Islamic tax. You had chance to help the masjid. You had chance to recite Quran and do your Islamic obligation, but you did not do it. Now it's too late. Now it's too late to help poor people. Now it's too late to do your namaz perfectly. Now it's too late to you to do your roza. So it's going to be too late. So that's why these people say, the first, we were not praying. Second, we were not taking care of poor people. Third, we were actually not having any belief to the hereafter, to the akhirat. Fourth, we were actually friends with bad people. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept your a'mal and bless you and your families. Wassalamu alaikum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي لا يبلغ مدحته القائلون ولا يحصي نعماءه العادون ولا يؤدي حقه المجتحدون الذي لا يدركه بعد الحمم ولا يناله غوص الفطن. ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين حبيب قلوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا وشفيع ذنوبنا سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم وأحلل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين صاحب العصر والزمان خليفة الرحمن إمام الإنس والجان ولعن الله أعداهم أجمعين إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد، سلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept your amal. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inspire you now to build your foundation, to be strong, to be relentless against all the pressures of today. Our discussion from the very first day of the month of Ramadan has been this attempt now to rebuild the foundation of theology and religion inside of us. We have started from scratch, guys. We went all the way back to how do you define the word deen inside of the dictionary, to where you see that deen in everyday life. From there, we moved on to this discussion on the worldview. From the worldview, we talked about the fact that religion at least requires our attention. And then how does it require our attention? Through the theory of knowledge of the intellect, through what is referred to as that theory of epistemology. And we ended off last night by looking at the four theories of knowledge: tajrubi, naqli, shahudi, aqli, right? Empirical knowledge, traditional knowledge, mystical knowledge, and of course, intellectual and logical reasoning based on rationale. And we came to the conclusion, and again, I'll say this one more time, I don't want any confusion. Right now, for what we are trying to accomplish, the only effective theory of knowledge is that of the aql and the intellect, okay? We cannot believe in a certain worldview because anyone tells us to. It has to come from within. Later on, once it's built within, then those words that, the alim says, the parent says, the imam says, the prophet says, those are meant to strengthen already existing belief inside of us. Okay, that's why, in the world of jurisprudence, it's haram to do taqleed when it comes to the usul of the deen. Taqleed, imitation, following a marja, only happens on the branches of the tree. The branches of the tree are only there because their roots exist already. So salat and saum and hajj and fasting, and those things are all things that we can refer to an expert. But Islam does not allow you to believe in one God because your marja says so. That's haram. It has to come from within. So we established now so far that fine, religion requires my attention. I must use the faculty of my intellect now to be able to begin that investigation. And that leads us to today, class number 5. Let's get started. Inshallah, you guys are with me. I know it's tough to do this at 6 p.m. Eastern, a little bit before actual iftar, but inshallah, you guys have been incredible throughout. Okay, let's get to class number 5, inshallah, and then we will go from there. Okay, now, to be truly human, let's revisit a concept that we discussed in the second class, class number 2, the class on the worldview and ideology. Class number 3, the drive to investigate the religion. What are those principles? What are those factors that instigates the investigation of religion? Instigates the investigation of religion. The first one, if you remember, was the fitrat, the innate nature of human being. Okay? In there, we talked about the God gene, how since the dawn of man now, they've all tried to figure out which entity to worship. And based on their capacity, based on their intellect, based on their knowledge, based on their surroundings and tribal realities, they believed what they believed. The sun, the moon, the stars, water, fire, I don't know, animals, people, themselves, God, right? But one thing that is synonymous in all of these different paths is that they're all seeking the proper means to believe in something. Hence, that religion they're talking about. Okay, so in this opening statement of mine, we have to please understand this. In the previous lesson, we saw that innate human desires lead man to seek religion. Okay, like I said, to the point where it is such a strong emphasis inside of our innate nature that it blocks any sort of intellect and rationale. You end up, like I said, worshiping an idol made out of food. Okay. It's absurd. It's comical. It's just, it boggles the mind that how you can think that this piece of food that you created with your own hands now is worthy of you to worship, ask for your prayers, seek protection from, for blah blah blah, this and that. But that's what I'm saying. It's such a strong innate need that even up until today, the debate of the greatest minds of today now, all debate around, this supernatural entity, this metaphysical world, system of religion, even up until now. That can't be denied, guys. Therefore, it can be said, and this is where I need you guys to focus with me right out the gate in the very first 5 minutes of the class today. That to not seek religion means that a person is not truly human. To be human, to be a true insan, is to fulfill your innate nature. Okay, what drives man to go work, what drives man to hunt back in the day, was this innate need for food, the innate hunger that his family felt. He would put himself in grave danger. We push ourselves for 8, 9, 10 hours a day. To simplify why we do it is simply to feed our family, to clothe our family, right? Those are all innate needs that we have. Okay. To sit at home and then not to do that, and not to feed yourself and not to feed your family, sit at home and do nothing, let them starve, is not human. It's, in fact, they would say it's inhuman of you to do it. Okay. Similarly, we have to take that same viewpoint and vantage point when it comes to other fitri innate needs of ours, one of them of which is religion. This statement right now, opening paragraph above the line there in front of you, is crucial. It's crucial. Okay. Now, the proof for this is very simple. Number one, man innately seeks perfection. The human being, all of us, we seek perfection. We don't like imperfections. I can take you all the way down to the lowest of the low example. I have my favorite food dish. Lob hai wo. Iftar se pehle jo hai is talking about food. Why is he doing this to us? Favorite food. Imagine now, when we get closer to iftar, we're like, oh my God, I want this for iftar today. So you go, you make it, you order it, whatever the case may be. It's there in front of you. It comes. You can't wait now. It's been a very tough fast since morning. You can't wait. You go to open it and you see a hair in there. Gross, right? Nasty. Or you see, I don't know, some other piece of garbage in your food. The tiniest little bit in a massive plate of food. Now, you could choose to pick it up, throw it out, eat your food, but some of you might think, you know what, I lost my appetite, I'll eat something else. The entire plate now is rejected. One small scratch on our new car, one small thread hanging out in our new pair of pants, I don't know, a rip in our new purse, the laces won't tie up in our new shoes. All these things point to an innate need for perfection. To the point even where when we have our own imperfections, we do everything we can to hide them. Physical ones, right? Concealer, makeup, I don't know, a Band-Aid, surgery, creams, whatnot, right? When my hair gets out of control, when my beard gets out of control, you have to go and trim it, make it look proper, blah, blah, blah. Yes, it's self-respect. It's the nature of beauty. It's also this need for perfection. We innately seek perfection. And we're drawn towards those things that are perfect or those people that are perfect. That's why we claim as Shi'as, love of the Ahlul Bayt is innate and fitrat. Why? Because they're an infallible household. And our need to seek perfection and then fall in love with perfection leads us to the door of the Ahlul Bayt. That's why we make that claim. Number two, human perfection is acquired by free will, actions based on the intellect, right? For example, if we find out tomorrow that this person who claims to be infallible, in fact, didn't have any of the elements to make him fallible. A lot of my youth ask me about the ismat and the fact that the ma'sumin are ma'sum and perfect. You know, if God made them perfect, then why do we applaud them? Why? Where's their fadilat? Where's their distinction in that? And the answer is that they earned that infallibility through their free-willed actions. They had all the tools and the capacity to sin, just like you and I did, right? They weren't robots. They weren't a different creation. They were a bashar. They were a creation just like you and I were, right? But they had the resolve, and then on top of that, now Allah removes the ritz from them, as we see in the Quran, or gives them that, they don't need that special knowledge, only after He saw that they're able to show this high level of piety. But if somebody achieves a certain level of perfection without decisions that they've made, handed it to them, for example, I'm saying, and it's a very simple example, when you think about somebody who is affluent, who's very rich, and you stop and you compare two rich families. One family is rich where they went from poverty to riches, right? Rags to riches, as you say, right? It's a feel-good story, right? I sometimes see these athletes now, after years and years, after signing a contract now, they buy their mother a brand new house, or they buy their parents a brand new car, and their story is that they, of course, they lived on welfare. They were born and raised in a very, very difficult neighborhood, right? Single parent, right? Not around, had to work two jobs just to make ends meet. Now all of a sudden, her son or his son now comes with a brand new house, and it's a nice feel good story. That's a different rich, as opposed to someone else who's affluent, has a big house, beautiful company, but daddy gave it to him. Daddy gave it to him. There was no effort on him. There's no choice on him. There's no, right? There's two different stories there, right? We accept and we want perfection when it's acquired by their own free will. They made the right choices and put forth the right effort to attain that perfection. Number three, the practical rule of the intellect, now we're getting a little bit deeper now, hopefully you guys are able to follow me now, are based upon its theoretical principles. Okay? The three most important being origin, destination, and purpose or way. And knowledge of these three are innate. Knowledge of these three, right, require an answer. Okay? We'll always go after these three. Subconsciously, consciously, we always want to know, where we came from, what are we doing here, and where are we going? Always. Right? And that is ruled by the intellect, okay? By the intellect. So these three are important for us to understand, okay? This is now all based on yesterday's discussion where we said this is the only theory of knowledge that can be used right now to get to the proper worldview. By tomorrow night now, halfway through our series, we'll be able to answer the question, which worldview is accurate, all based on intellect. I haven't given you one verse of the Quran yet in my PowerPoint, not one hadith in my PowerPoint. All of it has been an attempt to enter your intellect and to begin now to kind of, awaken it. Okay? These three are important. Now, perfection and the unlimited. Okay? Man innately seeks perfection. We understand that. Introspection, and let's open this discussion on perfection and unlimited a little bit more in the, I have about 15 minutes left. Introspection into our inner desires reveals that the root of all of them is the impulse towards perfection. Think about it. What drives us, let's say, to eat the food that we eat, to love the person that we love, to commit the sin that we commit sometimes? It's all for that perfect feeling, right? It's all about that first sip of coffee, the first bite of the burger, the first instance of love with this person. And our whole life, we're simply trying to capture those moments, right? Why does love fade in a marriage? It's because we're trying to capture that first, boy meets girl, girl meets boy phase, that honeymoon love. That is the most explosive and the most passionate, but also the least permanent, right? When we begin to understand that love has versions to it, 2.0, 3.6, 5.8, then we understand that I can never capture that honeymoon love. That was, a one and done idea. But I'm constantly trying to recapture that moment. That's my perfection of love, right? I'm trying to capture that first bite I bite into my favorite meal, and just that, that dopamine euphoria feeling you have, this utopia of society that you have, or that first sip you have of your cold drink that goes down, right? Or that first sip of chai or coffee or tea, whatever the case may be, all of it points to this idea of our impulse towards perfection. Why do I want to buy certain clothes? I think it looks perfect on me. Why do I don't know, form my face a certain way, my beard, my makeup, my haircut, my style, my hijab, my whatever the case may be, all of it now leads to a deeper rooted reality of this impulse towards perfection. A little bit of thought. Why do we desire certain things? Only because of this impulse towards perfection. We innately seek perfection in everything that we do, in everybody that we do. There are people who are perfectionists. Some of our parents are perfectionists, and they require that perfection from their kids, or from their community, or from their classroom if they're a teacher. And when they don't get it, they get very, very frustrated, because to them, perfection is everything. Point number 2, no one likes that imperfection should be even attributed to them, and strives to remove them. And before being able to remove them, they hide them. Okay? Any blemish on our record, be it our spiritual record, our physical record, our mental record, whatever the case may be, we either try to remove that blemish or we hide it. Okay? Think about a pimple on our face. Think about a moment of ignorance and foolishness in front of a crowd. Think about, I don't know, a moment where I committed a sin in front of everybody. I do my best now to redeem myself, recover myself, remove myself from that understanding of what others may have of me. That essentially is our detesting of imperfection and our love and our impulse towards perfection. Okay? Hope that makes sense to you guys. To the point where when we find imperfections inside of us, we hide them. When we find imperfections inside of those people that reflect us, like our children, like our spouse, then we hide them. Right? And that again points to a very deep-rooted need that we have for perfection. Okay? Now, this is now we have to be a little bit careful now. This is where I'm going to ask you to look around the world now. Okay? This inclination for perfection, when it's directed properly, is the source of all human perfections. When you understand where that perfection lies, that you can only get that perfection through this path, then that will give life to everything else now. So when you realize that this is a source of all perfection, your physical body is perfect, or your physical makeup is perfect, your spiritual makeup is perfect, and your mental makeup is also perfected, mind, body, and soul. Now, what perfection means is not to be infallible. I'm not talking about here that unless we're infallible, we don't accept ourselves. Perfection is a whole different discussion altogether. It's relative. It's not an absolute concept, meaning that every person, each and every one of you right now listening to me, has your own version of perfection, right? Perfection is the ability now to continue on the path towards goodness without being pulled off of it by your impulses that are satanic, or by external factors. So when we direct that properly, everything else falls into place. However, when we don't direct it properly, when we think that this entity will bring me perfection and it doesn't, it actually it becomes a source of pseudo perfections, false perfections. We actually believe if I attain this, I'll be set, and I attain it, and there's still a gaping hole inside of me. Okay? Or I believe that because I have it, I'm perfect. So now you have these false things of riyah, grandeur, seeking fame, power, the ego, narcissism. All of that are from people who believe they are the perfect version of themselves, but they're fooling themselves. They've actually acquired and achieved a pseudo perfection. Because while they believe they're perfect, they're actually destroying their character and nobody wants to be around them. Think about those people who think that they are the best of the best. Okay? The best of the best. And they come across like that. This very ego-centric individual, full of themselves, right? No one wants to be around them. Nobody can say, oh yeah, I envy that. That's a perfect human. No, it isn't. It isn't, right? Those people and those athletes and celebrities of today that just want to get that max deal or that endorsement or, be set for life when it comes to money. Level A celebrities who make 20, 25, $30 million a movie follow their life till the end. You would think that they would ride off in the sunset all happy. And some do. But then there are those that you find, hung in their home with their own belts, OD'd in a bathtub in a hotel room, found with all sorts of, this person and that person, right? Caught up in this gambling ring, caught up in that lawsuit, in this harassment claim, all these things, right? So it turns out that, the source of happiness or perfection that you thought was it, wasn't it at all. Because if it did, it should have brought you a source of contentment and serenity. It should have made you a better person, and it didn't. Right? So if I think for a second, look, if I just get to this income bracket, if I make this much money as I said, and get this house, I am perfect, right? We think, we think, right? Just a little bit of a bigger house, I swear to God, I'll never complain. I won't, I'll be happy, blah, blah, blah. And meanwhile, there are people, who have triple the size of the house that I have, who are unhappy, right? The beggar sleeps with contentment at night. The rich sleep with worry at nights, because the rich worries about his fortune tomorrow, and the poor and the humble now are excited for a new opportunity in the next day. Okay, so this all stems back to a pseudo idea of perfection. When that perfection is guided properly, everything else falls into place. I know people, people for sure, who live in a shack of a house, and you'll think, wow, they must be miserable, and they're on top of the world. The house environment is serene, it's incredible, it's comfortable, it's content, right? They may not have much in their fridge, but their heart is filled with love and compassion. Then there are those, like I said, that have quarters to their house, right? And they're miserable, right? These are people who have, who have not labeled their perfection properly. This will all start to kind of fall into place sooner or later. Now, 3 boxes I have to go through, and then at 6:45, inshallah, questions as usual. 3 boxes, like this is 1 box. Understand each of these boxes, okay? Then tomorrow we'll bring it all home, and we'll answer the question, which worldview is accurate and why. In the quest for the right worldview, man's innate need for perfection must be coupled with his or her detest for limits. If we don't like imperfection, we also don't like limits. Think about it for a moment, okay? Think about for a moment. The word unlimited really, really entices us, right? Unlimited data on our phones, all you can eat buffets, unlimited kilometers in our rental cars, right? There's no speed limit on the highway, go as fast as you want, right? No sort of limits of laws, blah, 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 right? We don't like limits. We're after this freedom where I can do what I want, say what I want, eat without there any being no limits from the wife, no limits from the doctor, no limits from the government, nothing at all. Imagine 24 hours of no sharia, no halal, no haram, do what you want. Your eyes would light up. Oh my God, I would go to KFC right away. We just don't like limits. We find limits to be difficult. Which means, and please follow me in this now movement, the innate detesting of limits is actually the innate need for the unlimited. Oh, you have to understand this jumla. It's a very, very important sentence. The innate detesting of limits is actually the innate need for the unlimited. When we say I don't want rules, it means I want the unlimited. There is a source, there is an innate need for me to seek the unlimited. I used mundane examples of, of cell phone data and a buffet and mileage on a car. But there's something deeper inside. Give me an unlimited source. Right? If we could live forever in this world, would we? Yeah, we would. Somebody might think, oh, I don't want to. I don't want, not in this world. Right now, you may be going through a lot. That's why you're saying that. But when those emotions are gone, we're constantly seeking the unlimited, and we don't realize it. But through our detestment of limits, essentially what we're doing is we're seeking for the unlimited. Now, there are those people that have identified the unlimited to be, like I said, fame, fortune, power, money, whatever, have their name on billboards, have X million amount of followers on Instagram. That's their unlimited. They get to it and there's still a gaping hole inside of them. They're still not happy, not content. They're still miserable. Which means that what? They've identified their unlimited incorrectly. Which brings me to my last box of this class. The fall of man that we see today is due to the incorrect identifying of this unlimited. You pick up anything. Racism, injustice, oppression. What's happening right now in Yemen, what's happening right now in Palestine, what's happening right now in Kashmir, in Syria, in China, in Afghanistan, sometimes in Pakistan. What's happening right now to our Muslim brothers and sisters in India. I read an article where Modi, the government there, is actually purposely now keeping their vaccine dosages away from Muslim areas and giving it only to people who are like them. Okay? They want this unlimited control of the entire nation by wiping out an entire group of people. Right? This greed, this desire that controls man to commit crimes, to be racist, to deny people their rights, all stems from this unlimited source. If I give to them, then I won't have enough for myself. And that's the fear, right? If I give power and civil liberties and freedom and rights to this nation, to the African American nation, well, then we're going to lose our supremacy as a certain color in this country. And so I want that unlimited supremacy. I want that power. What do? I stomp and oppress a certain nation so I can maintain that. Right? You look at the Fir'auns and the Muawiyahs and the Saddams of the world. That's exactly what they did. They thought that their kursi, their seat, their throne was the unlimited. They went to war. Muawiyah went to war with Imam Ali in Siffin for the kursi and the unlimited khilafat of Sham, of Damascus. Fir'aun, 7 different signs sent to him, right? From rain to locusts to frogs to water turning red to famine to everything, you name it. Time and time again, he would say, okay, Musa, tell your Lord if he gets me out of this, then after that, I'm just gonna, I'll be good. And then he would go back because that unlimited, he saw his throne as the unlimited. Without it, now I don't want. The incorrect identifying of the unlimited is the fall of the human being. I've seen families break up over inheritance, a couple of thousands of dollars, because money to them is the unlimited. If I can just get this money, that's it. I don't have to worry about, my kids' weddings or my kids' tuitions or my kids, this and that. I don't have to worry about mortgage payments. I'm set. I can live a happily ever after life. And we're after all of these false truths of happily ever after. So what do? We falsely identify and incorrectly identify the unlimited. When we do that, it becomes the fall of man. So my sisters and my brothers, In class number 5 tonight, perfection and the unlimited. Our intellect screams at us to seek those things that are perfect. Our intellect screams at us that I detest limits. Now, mind you, wait a second now. I know what you'll ask me. Wait a second now. Limits are important for society, Asabhai. I'm not talking about the importance of limits. I'm saying that the law is important. Limits on the highway is important. For sure, it's important. Absolutely. But do we like those things or not? If we could do without them, would we or not? That's my question. And I believe, and you can argue with me if you want, the innate disposition of man tells us that we don't like limits. We don't like hudud and had and to be kind of, put in a box. Let me be free. Right? This whole notion, this hip hop notion of you do you, and you only live once, and all of this absurd statements that some of our youth now are hashtagging in their social media. This is horrible advice. This is what I'm talking about. They're looking for the unlimited by not chaining themselves. You do you, meaning you do whatever you want, man. Don't worry about, there's no one going to call you out. If you want to, have a bucket list at 45 and have a midlife crisis, and divorce your wife and go marry some 20-year-old and have a convertible for a car, hey bro, you do you, man. That's the worst thing in the world to live by. But that's what's being shoved down the throats of our kids today. Hashtag YOLO, right? You only live once. So if you only live once, live it up, right? Because they believe this world to be the unlimited. You get my point, right? And so when you believe this world to be the unlimited, you live in this world like you will live in heaven. Everything is on table. There's no holds barred. Nothing is sacred. There's no way that I'm going to uphold this law or that. No. Certain people have a different set of rules, right? I'm watching these rich people during a lockdown. They're flying and vacationing in their private islands. There's no COVID for those kind of people. Meanwhile, here I am, I can't take my kids down the street sometimes because the parks are locked down right now, right? So, those are people, it all boils down to a deep-rooted issue of perfection and the unlimited. We innately seek perfection. We innately seek the unlimited, okay? All based on the intellect, not one riwayat in today's slide, not one verse of the Quran. I am triggering your intellect. I ask you, let it digest. Don't react right away. You have questions, the WhatsApp group is there. You can ask even 3 days from now, no problem. Let this marinate. This slide, class number 5, is a turning point in our journey. If you can get class number 5, tomorrow makes sense. Once tomorrow makes sense, khalas, tamam shud. Asan uske baad. It's easy. It's easy. No worries at all. But this class is very important. I'll pause there. Inshallah, there'll be questions. We'll go from there, okay? Thank you very much for your time. Inshallah, questions are open. I'll stop the share. Bismillah.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam rahmatullah. How are you?
Great talk. Alhamdulillah. How are you?
Alhamdulillah. Thank you very much.
Alhamdulillah. So great questions we have tonight also, Maulana. So let's get started. So let's go with the first. Let's start with the youth question first. One of the youth asked this question: can one be wealthy and truly content? How to balance between worldly goals and spiritual goals? Oh,
I love it. And the answer is yes. Ironically, in a different community, I'm talking about the life and lessons of Nabi Sulaiman. Nabi Sulaiman had a palace. He was a king. And the reason why God gave him that kingdom was because he was able to show God that I'm not going to attach myself to this. I'll give you a very simple story, a story that I shared in that series, if you don't mind. I know I don't have much time. Okay, please. So that Nabi Sulaiman could talk to, he could talk to the birds. He had the knowledge of the language of the birds. He's walking by 2 birds talking, a male bird and a female bird. The male bird says to female bird, "Why don't you love me? Why don't you love me? Itna main koshish karu mein, I have a little bit this and that." And the female says, no. And then, what happens when in love, right? You know what? If you want, I can bring the dome of the kingdom of Suleiman to your feet. You just tell me, and that's how much I love you. Now, who's watching this? Nabi Sulaiman's watching, and he can understand what he's being said. But no matter what this poor male bird tries, the female says, "Nahi, tumse mohabbat nahi karugi. I'm not going to love you." And then he summons the male bird. He goes, "Idhar, come here. You really think you can bring my dome to her feet?" He's like, "Arey, come on, let me." So you know how it is. Mohabbat mein sab kuch this and that's okay, right? And then he summons a female bird. Oh, very, very quickly. Says, why don't you love him? Look at him, Bachara. He promised my dome to you. What more? And she says that Prophet of Allah, he doesn't love me. He has more than me in his hearts. I'm not his exclusive love. Nabi Sulaiman heard this, went home, he cried for 40 days, Hadith says. Begged to Allah, Allah, please allow my heart to exclusively love only you. Don't allow anyone else inside my heart. When you have a person like that, Allah says, look, I'll throw the dunya at your feet. You won't be affected by it. So yes, you can be rich and be content, provided you keep the goal in mind. You can achieve all you want. I've said this 1,000 times in New Jersey. Achieve, 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 but don't attach yourself to that achievement. When it's time for you to move, I have plenty of examples of people, mashallah, who use their wealth for good. And Allah gives them more and more because they, the more you spend towards Allah, the more Allah will give you, inshallah. Sorry.
What a great answer. No, thank you so much. Next question, Maulana. How can we help control our desires and greed? Why are some people envious, and how do you teach a child not to be envious or greedy?
Yeah, so greed and envy, hasad, it's a disease of the soul, and it stems from honestly, and it stems from a weak understanding of God. Because think about what we're saying. We're saying to God, God, you gave them the wealth, and you don't have the power to give me the same wealth. So take it from them and give it to me. That's what hasad is, right? Hasad is no to them and yes to me, right? But the ghibta is a different, it's a jealousy. It's a positive jealousy. It says, look, Allah, let them have it, but give me what they want, right? Like, for example, when I hear, Mutahar Bhai's smallest son read Quran and the adhan and the ziyarat, I envy, I wish that my son Hassan could read like that. That's jealousy, yes. But I don't want my bachara chota jo hai, no, I want him to be like him. That's great, but that comes from a weak understanding of God. And that's what we're doing today, right? In these 15 nights, we're trying to build up God to the point where nobody's wealth, nobody's success will ever affect me inside my heart. How do you teach that to a child? Teach him the importance that God has the power to do everything, to give you everything, right? Never let them feel like I'll never get what they have. Why them and why not me? It stems from a very, very faulty and a loose understanding of God. God is wise. God gives to the one who asks. God gives within his wisdom. So those things are, it stems from this idea that if we had more tawakkul, we talked about tawakkul last night, right? Tawakkul of Allah, we will understand that, look, they can have the wealth. I know that my time will come soon too, inshallah. Yeah.
Next question. Is freedom same as individualism?
That's a great question. So individualism is, I wouldn't say directly, but I would say that sometimes I think they're both confused. So individualism, and I spoke about that on the Beit Qaim member a couple of years ago as an entire 15-day lecture, is the idea of what's called fard girai in Farsi, where the source of everything is the self. Right? Today we're seeing the effects of it, right? We're seeing the me generation, right? The selfie generation, everything is on the table generation. Nothing is sacred anymore, right? It's all about me. What have you done for me lately, right? That whole generation, we're seeing that. That's not what freedom is. Freedom is, and again, it depends on how you define freedom, right? I have my version of freedom, and you have your version of freedom. To me, the freedom I have is that when I enslave myself to Allah, that comes with freedoms, right? Because really, the fallacy of the idea that we are masterless is a fallacy. The Quran compares people who have multiple masters to people who have one master. It doesn't even entertain the idea that you don't have a master. We're enslaved to a system with the harbai. We're enslaved to somebody or something, whether we like it or not, be it God Almighty, be it society, or be it our own desires. The question is not, are we free? The question is, who do you choose to enslave yourself to? Right? Now, Imam Ali says, my biggest level of fakhr and pride is that I am your abd. I chose you, Allah, to enslave myself with. Now, when you enslave yourself to Allah, the freedom of envy, the freedom of jealousy, the freedom of relying on others, the freedom of worry, the freedom, all these things are freedoms, right? You know, the pandemic hits, people, they're in chaos. They have no idea what's going on. We who have God, we simply are content because we know what? I have God, and that's the freedom of worry, all these things are freedoms. You might think freedom, you know what? I want to be able to do everything and say everything. That's animalistic instinct. That's not freedom, right? When an animal wants to mate, it mates. When an animal is hungry, it kills. When an animal is sleepy, it sleeps, right? And for some reason, we want that haywani azadi, that animalistic freedom. That's not freedom. That's just simply instinctive behavior, right? And that's outside the realm of the intellect. So individualism is one thing, freedom is something else. But both of them have to be defined properly. Yeah.
Wonderful. Maulana, actually, I'm going to ask you, we're having some great questions here. Can we just go 5 more minutes extra today?
Yeah, sure.
If you don't mind, because they're great
as long as
questions.
you're okay with the Urdu program, that's fine.
No, we are fine because that's recording, so we can start a little late.
Sure.
But we have some great questions and they're very pertinent to the topic.
No problem.
That's why I want to continue.
I'm with you.
So this sister, it's a great question here. If there is an innate desire, need for the unlimited, where does an atheist come from? If you have the incessant need for that, how does an atheist find perfection?
Yes. Okay, great question. So I talked about the fitrat, right? And remember, I said the fitrat is not an on or off switch. It's a dimming light. Okay? So even at the lowest dim, the light is still what? On. It's still on. At the maximum now, the light is shining bright. Okay. The example I gave you, remember the example I gave you. You're sitting in your room, you put these blackout curtains, thick curtains in front of your window now, because you want to sleep during the daytime. So now at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, at the height of the sunlight, your room is pitch black. And that's how you like it. You can't see your hand in front of your face. Now, if you were to, at that moment, claim that the sun is not existing, you'd be wrong. Open your curtains and you'll see the sun. An atheist has veiled their fitrat, has veiled their innate desire for God. Now, there are veils there that jade us, that confuse us, that make us angry, that, maybe, I'll tell you a quick story. I'm sorry. I had a bonfire discussion with about 15, 20 youth about 3 months ago at someone's house. Okay, 6 feet apart. They were just tired of not having a community meeting, blah, blah, blah. And there was one 23-year-old kid, I'll never forget this conversation. Shia bacha, apna bacha, from Bachman. He says, I don't like religion because I had a horrible Sunday school teacher. He was mean to me. And he yelled at me when I didn't know my five daily prayers. I asked an alim one question and he gave me a ridiculous answer. I've asked for a dua nonstop and I haven't gotten that answered. Those are what? Those are veils. Those are veils that we put on top of the lights, right? To block the light from coming, right? All of these 3 have answers to them. Remove the veil one by one, the light begins to shine through. An atheist has veiled that innate nature, okay? So yeah, it's possible that the fitrat is there, but it's not being exercised. It's not dimming at maximum capacity, right? So obviously, if it's a very, very faint light, it's not going to lead the way, right? It's like being outside in the woods and you having a very faint light. You're going to trip, you're going to fall, you're going to run into the tree and then make mistake after mistake after mistake because your light is not powerful enough. Change the battery and the flashlight now, of course, works at that moment. Remove the veils and that fitrat now comes out. A lot of atheists now have become godly for this very reason. They've identified what my veils are, what my triggers are, what my trauma is. Abuse in a church, for example, at the hand of a priest. I mean, that has a detrimental effect on your connection to God, right? Because this is a man of God, right? That becomes a veil for you. That has to be first dealt with, and then you talk about perfection and the veils. Right. Sorry, I'm going fast because I want to get to the question. I'm sorry. Yeah.
No, that's a great one. Because you have so many good questions, so I'm going to go fast this one too. This is a great question. This one, this is more generalized. If building on the foundational theology, what we're doing now, is so crucial in Islam, and Islam requires us to do our homework to develop this aqaid, basic foundation, how does then one actually get to do that when a certain worldview is imposed on him since birth?
Yeah.
How and when do they get to go back and check their foundation?
Right. So that's a great question, because a certain worldview is imposed on you from birth. It's a beautiful question, and it's just so inspiring to see that people are listening and they're digesting. It's incredible. Yes, you're right. It's imposing, and up until the first few years of your life, like I said, you inherit that worldview. But there comes a moment now. Why is bulugh so important in Islam? Because bulugh is not just jismi, right? It's not just your body changing. Your intellect now becomes roshan, they say in Farsi. It turns on now. It begins now to kind of dust off the equipment and begins to start working. And you're bound to ask yourself questions. Believe me, this generation has taught me one thing. There's a lot of questions inside of them that either they're too afraid to ask, or it's too blasphemous or taboo, or they haven't found the right source. And in this, in this era of information where there is access that's too much to information, a lot of confusion. So there comes a moment now where you kind of move away from the inheritance, and you should now begin to ask these critical questions like origin, purpose, destination. Now you can't ignore those questions. Those are the triggers for you to move away from inheriting or what's been imposed on you towards an actual worldview, right? And that's when I'll ask all of you that the seekers of knowledge, they do one thing. They seek the knowledge. The ones who have knowledge are there. It's a matter of you going and you seeking it out, right? I have people, not that I have knowledge, but I have people who call me on a weekly and monthly basis because they have X amount of questions, right? If you have questions, if you have doubts, if you want to restart the whole foundation all over again, you have to seek that. It's not going to come to you, right? This is a gift in the month of Ramadan that's been presented to you now in your homes, right? In your comfortable arena. But the idea is that the seekers of knowledge seek the knowledge. If you are true in building the foundation, seek it. Allah will open up the doors for you. وَالَّذِينَ جَاهَدُوا فِينَا لِنَهْدِيَنَّهُمْ سُبُلَنَا. If you struggle in our path, Allah will open up doors and paths for you that you never thought existed, right? So, you're right. One is imposed on you, but eventually when those triggered questions begin to pop up in your mind, don't ignore them. Okay? Don't even if your parents may not have the answers, and they probably won't, then I'd still seek out the answers properly for your own contentment. We don't want an inherited Muslim. We want somebody who actually believes in what they believe in, inshallah.
Great one. Another great question here. If our innate nature is to want unlimited, then is it fair to say freedom is our purpose?
No, our purpose is not free. Again, we go back to the definition of freedom, right? If freedom is this, because you know what, if the person is around tomorrow, I'm going to answer that question tomorrow, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Because tomorrow will make sense to you. Because while we seek the unlimited, we're bound by limits, and limits are the crux of society and the crux of our own. Even the world, any worldview, places limits on its followers, right? So how is that possible? While my innate need is leaving me towards the worldview, that worldview is placing limits on me. It seems like a catch-22. I have to answer that tomorrow, inshallah. So tomorrow you'll get your answer.
Perfect. So this question, Maulana, is that if the infallibility of the infallibles is based on their free-willed actions, when did they perform these actions?
Yeah.
Because we believe the infallibles were born infallible.
Yeah, great question. Another great question. So again, the whole bahas on ismat inside the prophets and the imam specifically was that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala used his ilm ghaib to understand that, and again, Allah can see entirety, right? Allah's not like us. We see moment by moment, season by season, day by day. Allah sees entirety. Like He has my life down packed in a snapshot. He knows that, when I was born up until now, how long I'll live. He has, I don't have that. So He knows what I'll do 20 years from now. He knows what I'll be 20 years from now. He knew the imams, what they would do in this world before they were created. And one version is we believe that based on that ilm ghaib, on that unseen knowledge, that He now gifted them, all the tools now to be able to be infallible. Again, it's based on merits, based on merit. Beautiful statement by Imam Ali. He says, I could outslide meaning I could be more of a politician in the worst sense than Muawiyah would. I could. Muawiyah was the master of mind control, of propaganda. Basically, what Imam Ali was saying, like he's saying, I could outplay Muawiyah at his own game. The only thing stopping me is God. So it tells me that he has the tools inside of him, but God now is the one that's governing him inside of him, right? Those kind of entities and creations, God, of course, rewards with ismat and infallibility. So, we have to believe that they showed something to God in some world where God now gave them that infallibility. Otherwise, like I said last night, I have a long list of gila and shikayat and complaints that Allah, why not me? Why not Mutahhar Bhai? Right? Those kind of things, right? So, believing in God helps me to understand the system of infallibility. That's why I said, everything goes back to God. Everything goes back to God. When God makes sense, everything makes sense. From Imam-a-Zamana to Imam Hussein, to my tears, to my grief, to my mom's cancer, to my pandemic, everything makes sense. Otherwise, without God, everything is zidas sawal, as you say in Urdu, is under doubt, under question.
So one last question, Maulana, and we finish, inshallah.
Please.
It is very difficult to keep Allah in our hearts while we have others in our heart, which is a natural tendency. How can we just keep only Allah in our heart?
Oh, that's a deep question. It's a long answer. I'll say one thing to you, okay? If you want to do that, the person who asked that question, hopefully they're listening. If you want to do that, my question to you is, what is your tiniest step? What is the smallest step you could do in this month of Ramadan to achieve that? Okay, and I'll give you an example of what a tiny step is. I think I mentioned this in the opening lecture as well to all of you guys. Maybe I'm wrong. There's a sister who, no matter how hard she tried, she could not find the inspiration to read the Quran.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
I mentioned the story, right?
Yeah, you did.
Yes. Okay, so that idea, that place it beside you. Okay, the other tiniest step is that I'll give you an example. The dhikr of la ilaha illallah. The dhikr of la ilaha illallah. Our foundational dhikr. There is no God but Allah, correct? When you actually say la ilaha illallah, you can say it without moving your lips. That's how much of a small deed it is. Okay? Your tongue simply has to move. Your lips never actually come together when you say la ilaha illallah. Try it right now. La ilaha illallah. You can do it. That's how small, the tiniest of steps you can take. Allah then opens up the door. وَمَن يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ يَجْعَل لَهُ مَخْرَجًا. You show that God consciousness, Allah now opens the door. We're all about, big, huge steps. Allah says, don't skip steps, man. Take the tiniest of steps, right? What is the tiniest thing you could do starting tonight to make Allah exclusively inside of your heart? If that means just dhikr, la ilaha illallah, start doing that, but be consistent with it. Be consistent with it. One verse a day, even in the month of Ramadan, one verse a day, but be consistent with one verse a day. Watch how your life will change, inshallah.
Subhanallah. Thank you so much, Maulana.
Thank you.
So, Maulana, what do you think of these questions?
I love them.
They're amazing, aren't they?
I said last night that it's a reflection of the audience, and it really inspires me as this side of the equation.
Alhamdulillah.
That something is kind of going in, alhamdulillah. So
yeah, I'm getting great feedback about the formats, like what we're doing right now. There's something new, something different. So alhamdulillah, I think it's worked out great.
All of you should know this was Mutahhar Bhai's idea. This is his baby. And no, I'm serious. And we agreed upon it months ago, and alhamdulillah, I'm happy that so far it's going. Allah accept our efforts, inshallah.
Alhamdulillah. Thank you so much. Inshallah, we'll see you tomorrow at 6.
Inshallah. Thank you. Wassalamu alaikum. Thank you.
Mu'minin and Mu'minat, I would like to thank tonight's sponsors, families of Mr. Imran Zaidi and Mrs. Imran Zaidi. Please recite a Surah Fatiha for the Marumeen and Tamam Mu'minin and Mu'minat ki liye, inshallah. Bismillah. Ar-Rahman.
ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله آل الله. لا سيما بقية الله ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أعداء الله من يومنا هذا إلى لقاء الله. أما بعد فقد قال الله يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون. عزیزان گرامی، یہ رمضان کا مہینہ اور اس کی بابرکت کی تاریخیں، یہ وہ مہینہ ہے جس میں ہم اللہ کے مہمان ہیں. اس نے ہماری ضیافت کا خصوصی بندوبست کیا ہے. اس مہینے میں اس نے ہمیں روزے جیسی نعمت سے نوازا جس کا مقصد حصول تقویٰ ہے. تقویٰ اتنی اہم چیز ہے جس کے بغیر انسان کی نجات کا تصور بھی نہیں کیا جا سکتا. اسی اہمیت کے پیش نظر قرآن مجید نے بھی اس پر بہت زور دیا اور ائمہ طاہرین علیہم السلام نے بھی. اور ہر انسان مومن کی یہی تمنا اور آرزو ہوتی ہے کہ وہ ہمیشہ زیور تقویٰ سے آراستہ رہے. اور ہر مومن جو تقوی کا طلبگار ہے وہ اس جستجو میں رہتا ہے کہ اپنے کو پرکھے، اپنے کو جانچے کہ وہ زیور تقویٰ سے آراستہ ہوا یا نہیں ہوا. مولا کائنات کے خصوصی صحابی جناب حمام مولا سے اسی کسوٹی کا تقاضا کر رہے تھے. مولا متقین کی صفات کیا ہیں، متقین کی پہچان کیا ہے، اس سے ہمیں آگاہ کر دیجیے. مولا کائنات حمام کے جواب میں ایک طویل خطبہ بیان فرماتے ہیں اور 110 صفات متقین کے بیان کیے ہیں. مولا نے ایک صفت یہ بیان کی تھی کہ متقین جو ہوتے ہیں، صاحبان تقویٰ جو ہوتے ہیں، وہ تمام فضائل ان کی ذات میں یکجا اور جمع رہتے ہیں. اس کے بعد دوسری صفت مولا یہ فرماتے ہیں کہ وہ مشیہم التواضع، ان کی مشی میں تواضع اور انکساری پائی جاتی ہے. مشی سے کیا مراد ہے؟ مشی کسے کہتے ہیں؟ یہاں مشی کی دو تفسیر بیان کی گئی ہے. پہلی تفسیر یہ ہے کہ مشی سے مراد یہی راستہ چلنا ہے. وہ جب راستہ چلتے ہیں تو تواضع اور انکساری کے ساتھ راستہ چلتے ہیں. ان کے چلنے کے انداز میں تواضع و انکساری پائی جاتی ہے. ہوتے ہیں کچھ لوگ جب راستہ چلتے ہیں تو اکڑ کر غرور و تمکنت کے ساتھ چلتے ہیں، زمین پر پیر پٹختے، سینہ پھلائے اور سر کو اوپر کی طرف اٹھائے ہوئے چلتے ہیں. جس طرح سے جسم کے اوپر رونما ہونے والی تبدیلیوں سے جسم کے اندر پیدا ہونے والی بیماریوں اور کیفیات کا پتہ چلتا ہے، اسی طرح ہمارے حرکات و سکنات سے ہماری روحانی و نفسانی کیفیات کا بھی اندازہ ہو سکتا ہے. جب ہمارے بدن میں پھوڑے پھنسیاں نکل آتی ہیں تو یہ سمجھا جاتا ہے کہ ہمارے لیور کے فنکشن میں کوئی گڑبڑی پیدا ہو گئی ہے. اگر آنکھیں پیلی ہو جاتی ہیں تو صفرا کی تھیلی میں بیماری کا اندازہ ہوتا ہے. جب ہونٹوں پر سیاہی چھانے لگتی ہے تو قلب کے دریچے کے ٹھیک سے کام نہ کرنے کا پتہ چلتا ہے. اسی طرح سے ہمارے حرکات و سکنات، ان سے ہماری روحانی کیفیات کا بھی اندازہ ہو جاتا ہے کہ ہماری روح بیمار ہے یا صحت مند. آج سائنس نے کافی ترقی کے بعد باڈی لینگویج کا انکشاف کیا ہے. اس کے ذریعے ہماری ظاہری حرکات و سکنات سے ہماری اندرونی کیفیات و خیالات کا اندازہ لگایا جا سکتا ہے. امیر المومنین حضرت علی بن ابی طالب علیہ السلام 1400 برس قبل اس حقیقت کی طرف اشارہ فرمایا تھا. مولا فرماتے ہیں کہ ما ازمر احد شیئا الا ظہر فی فلطات لسانہ وصفحات وجہہ. انسان جس بات کو دل میں چھپانا چاہتا ہے وہ اس کی زبان کے بے ساختہ جملوں اور چہرے کے آثار سے نمایاں ہو جاتی ہے. مولا کائنات امیر المومنین حضرت علی بن ابی طالب علیہ السلام کی نظر میں متقی و پرہیزگار انسان کو اس کی چال ڈھال سے پہچانا جا سکتا ہے. اس کی ایک پہچان متواضعانہ چال ہے. قرآن مجید نے ہمیں اکڑ کر چلنے سے منع کیا ہے. سورہ اسراء آیت 37 میں ارشاد ہوتا ہے کہ وَلَا تَمْشِ فِي الْأَرْضِ مَرْحًا إِنَّكَ لَن تَخْرُقَ الْأَرْضَ وَلَن تَبْلُغَ الْجِبَالَ طُولًا. دیکھو جب چلو تو زمین پر اترا کر اکڑ کر تکبر کے ساتھ مت چلو، کیونکہ تم اپنی اس ادا سے نہ تو زمین کا سینہ چیر سکتے ہو اور نہ تمہارا قد پہاڑوں سے اونچا ہو سکتا ہے. مشی کی دوسری تفسیر یہ بیان کی گئی ہے کہ مشی سے مراد یہ راستہ چلنا نہیں ہے. مولا جو فرما رہے ہیں کہ ان کی مشی میں تواضع اور انکسار پایا جاتا ہے تو اس سے مراد یہ نہیں ہے ان کے چلنے کے انداز میں تواضع اور انکسار پایا جاتا ہے. نہیں، مشی سے مراد طرز زندگی اور لائف اسٹائل ہے. یعنی پرہیزگاروں کی زندگی میں سر تا پا تواضع و انکساری ہی پائی جاتی ہے. وہ اپنا لائف اسٹائل تواضع و انکساری کے بنیاد پر بناتے ہیں. غرور و تکبر کا ان کے یہاں شائبہ بھی نہیں ہوتا. ان کا ہر کام، چاہے وہ پڑھنا ہو یا پڑھانا، بزنس و کاروبار ہو یا عبادات و زیارات، خدمت خلق ہو یا امر بالمعروف و نصیحت، سب کی اساس و بنیاد میں انکساری کا عنصر شامل ہوتا ہے. تواضع و انکساری صرف ایک اچھی صفت اور اخلاقی خصلت ہی نہیں ہے کہ اگر ہو تو اچھی بات ہے اور نہ ہو تو کوئی حرج نہیں ہے. نہیں، ایسا نہیں ہے، بلکہ انسان کی زندگی میں اس کا بڑا دخل ہے. انسان کی خوشبختی اور بدبختی میں اس کا بہت اہم کردار ہے. اس کا پہلا اثر یوں بیان کیا جا سکتا ہے کہ یہ ایک مسلمہ حقیقت ہے کہ گناہ انسان کی زندگی میں دیمک کی حیثیت رکھتا ہے. جس طرح سے دیمک کسی چیز کو پوری طرح سے آہستہ آہستہ چاٹ جاتا ہے، اسی طرح سے گناہ بھی انسان کی زندگی کے ارتقائی سفر کا خاتمہ کر دیتا ہے. گناہ کا ایک اہم سبب غرور و تکبر ہے. اس کائنات میں پہلا گناہ ابلیس نے کیا تھا، جو تکبر کا نتیجہ تھا. جب اللہ نے آدم کو آب و گل سے ان کا پتلا تیار کر لیا، آدم کے پتلے نے جسمانی کمال حاصل کر لیا اور اللہ نے اس میں اپنی روح پھونک دی، تو اللہ نے فرشتوں کو آدم کے سجدے کا حکم دیا. سورہ ہجر کی آیت نمبر 29، 30، 31، 32 اور 33 میں یہ واقعہ بیان کیا گیا ہے. فَإِذَا سَوَّيْتُهُ وَنَفَخْتُ فِيهِ مِنْ رُوحِي فَقَعُوا لَهُ سَاجِدِينَ فسجد الملائکۃ کلہم اجمعون الا ابلیس ابا ان یکون مع الساجدین قال یا ابلیس ما لک الا تکون مع الساجدین قال لم اکن لاسجد لبشر خلقته من صلصال من حمأ مسنون. دوسری آیت میں ہے کہ خلقته من طین وخلقتنی من نار. جب اللہ کہتا ہے کہ جب میں آدم کا پتلا تیار کر لوں اور اس میں اپنی روح پھونک دوں تو تم سب کے سب آدم کے سامنے سجدے میں چلے جاؤ. خدا کے اس حکم کو مانتے ہوئے سارے فرشتوں نے سجدہ کر لیا سوائے ابلیس کے. اس نے انکار کر دیا، سجدہ کرنے سے اس نے انکار کر دیا. تو اللہ نے پوچھا اے ابلیس کیا وجہ ہے، تو نے آدم کو سجدہ کیوں نہیں کیا؟ ابلیس نے جواب دیا میں ان لوگوں میں سے نہیں ہوں جو آدم کو سجدہ کر دوں. یہاں پر ابلیس نے قیاس کرتے ہوئے کہا کہ میں اس انسان کو سجدہ نہیں کر سکتا جسے تو نے سڑی ہوئی بدبودار کھنکتی ہوئی مٹی سے پیدا کیا ہے. مجھے تو نے آگ سے پیدا کیا ہے، آدم کو مٹی سے پیدا کیا. آگ مٹی سے بہتر ہے، افضل کس طرح سے مفضول کے سامنے سجدہ ریز ہو سکتا ہے؟ سب سے پہلا قیاس ابلیس نے کیا. قیاس سے مراد یہ ہے کہ دو چیزیں جن میں کچھ باتیں کامن اور مشترک ہوں ان کے درمیان موازنہ کر کے ایک کا حکم دوسرے کے لیے ثابت کر دینا، اسے قیاس کہتے ہیں. مثال کے طور سے دودھ بھی سفید ہے، چونا بھی سفید ہے. دونوں سفید ہیں، سفیدی دونوں میں کامن ہے. اب دونوں کا موازنہ کیا جائے کہ جی دودھ بھی سفید ہے، چونا بھی سفید ہے. جب دودھ پیا جا سکتا ہے تو چونا کیوں نہیں پیا جا سکتا؟ اسے کہا جاتا ہے قیاس. سب سے پہلے قیاس کا کام ابلیس نے کیا. امام جعفر صادق علیہ السلام نے ابو حنیفہ کو قیاس کرنے سے منع کرتے ہوئے ارشاد فرمایا تھا کہ لا تقس فإن اول من قاس ابلیس. دیکھو کبھی قیاس مت کرنا، کیونکہ قیاس سب سے پہلے ابلیس نے کیا تھا. ابلیس کی سب سے بڑی غلطی یہ تھی کہ اس نے آگ کا مٹی سے موازنہ کر کے یہ دکھانا چاہا کہ آگ مٹی سے برتر ہے اور برتر کمتر کے آگے نہیں جھک سکتا. لیکن اس کا یہ استدلال ہی سرتاپا غلط ہے. پہلی بات یہ کہ کون کہتا ہے کہ آگ مٹی سے بہتر ہے؟ مٹی طرح طرح کی برکتوں کا سرچشمہ ہے. زندہ مخلوقات کی زندگی کی بقا و ارتقاء اسی سے وابستہ ہے. ان کی خوراک جس کے بغیر وہ زندہ نہیں رہ سکتے اسی مٹی سے حاصل ہوتی ہے. جبکہ آگ میں یہ خاصیت نہیں پائی جاتی. آگ تو تباہ کن ہے، سب کچھ جلا کر راکھ کر دیتی ہے. جس وقت زمین آگ کے گولے کی شکل میں سورج سے جدا ہوئی تو وہ سکونت کے قابل نہیں تھی. جب وہ ٹھنڈی ہو گئی تو اس کی مٹی برکتوں کا گہوارہ بن گئی، پیڑ پودوں کے اگنے کا ذریعہ اور تیل کا خزانہ بن گئی. آج اگر آگ کا وجود ہے تو وہ بھی زمین ہی کی دین ہے، کیونکہ آگ یا پتھروں کی رگڑ سے پیدا ہوتی ہے یا تیل سے، اور ان دونوں کا تعلق زمین سے ہے. اور دوسرا سب سے اہم نقطہ جسے ابلیس نے نظر انداز کر دیا وہ یہ ہے کہ آدم کی عظمت اور انہیں سجدہ کرنے کا حکم ان کے پیکر خاکی کی وجہ سے نہیں تھا بلکہ ان کی روحانیت کے باعث تھا. ان میں خدائی روح پھونکے جانے و نفخت فیہ من روحی کے باعث تھا. آدم کا جسم اگرچہ خاکی تھا لیکن ان کی روح کو خدا سے نسبت تھی. لیکن ستیاناس و غرور و تکبر کا جو آنکھوں پر پٹی باندھ دیتی ہے اور واضح و آشکار ترین چیز بھی دیکھنے کے لائق نہیں چھوڑتی، اسی تکبر کے باعث شیطان خدا کے مقابلے میں آ گیا اور اس سے لڑنے پر کمر بستہ ہو گیا. الہی حکمت و مصلحت کو چیلنج کرتے ہوئے کہنے لگا میں آدم سے بہتر ہوں، تو نے اسے مٹی سے پیدا کیا ہے، مجھے آگ سے پیدا کیا ہے، آگ مٹی سے بہتر ہے. اے خدا تجھ سے ایسے غیر منصفانہ حکم کی امید نہ تھی. اتنے علم و حکمت کا مالک ہونے کے باوجود تو نے ایسا حکم دے دیا کہ آدم کو سجدہ کروں. مولا کائنات امیر المومنین حضرت ابن ابی طالب علیہ الصلوۃ والسلام خطبہ قاسیہ میں اس مسئلے کو ان لفظوں میں بیان فرماتے ہیں کہ اعترضت الحمیہ، ابلیس کو تعصب نے گھیر لیا. تعصب یعنی اپنے کو، اپنی فکر کو، اپنے عقیدے کو، اپنے وجود کو دوسروں سے برتر سمجھنا بغیر کسی دلیل کے. ایک دفعہ برتر سمجھا جا رہا ہے، ہمارے پاس دلیل موجود ہے، معقول دلیل موجود ہے. مولا فرماتے ہیں کہ اعترضت الحمیہ، ابلیس کو تعصب نے گھیر لیا. فافتخر علی آدم بخلقہ، اسی وجہ سے وہ اپنی خلقت کے لحاظ سے اپنے کو آدم سے بہتر اور برتر سمجھنے لگا. اسے فخر ہونے لگا کہ اللہ نے ہمیں تو آگ سے پیدا کیا ہے. وتعصب علیہ لأصلہ، اور اپنی اسی خلقت کی ماہیت کی بنا پر، اپنی اصلیت کی بنا پر وہ تکبر کا شکار ہو گیا. فعدو اللہ امام المتعصبین وسلف المستکبرین، یہ خدا کا دشمن تعصب کرنے والوں کا پیشوا ہے اور اپنے کو بڑا سمجھنے والوں کا مورث اعلیٰ ہے. الذی وضع اساس العصبیہ، یہ ابلیس ہی ہے جس نے تعصب اور تکبر کی بنیاد ڈالی ہے. وَنَازَعَ اللَّهَ رِدَاءَ الْجَبَرِيَّةِ، اور کبریائی کی ردا پہننے میں یہ اللہ کے مقابلے میں آ گیا. وَدَّرَعَ لِبَاسَ التَّعَزُّزِ وَخَلَعَ قِنَاعَ التَّذَلُّلِ، شیطان نے عزت کا لباس پہن لیا خدا کے مقابلے میں، یعنی اپنے کو خدا سے بھی زیادہ عزیز، خدا سے بھی بڑا عزت والا سمجھنے لگا. وَخَلَعَ قَنَاعَ الذُّلِّ، اور اللہ کے مقابلے میں ذلت کی نقاب اس نے اٹھا کر کے پھینک دی. انسان کتنا ہی بڑا ہو جائے، مخلوق کتنی ہی عظیم ہو جائے، اللہ کے سامنے تو ذلیل ہی ہے. اللہ کے سامنے کوئی عزت کا دعویٰ نہیں کر سکتا، مگر ابلیس نے ایسا کیا. کیف صغرہ اللہ بتکبرہ، دیکھیے کس طرح سے اللہ نے اس کے تکبر کی وجہ سے اس کو چھوٹا بنا دیا. وَوَضَعَهُ بِتَرَفُّعِهِ، یہ اپنے کو اونچا دکھانا چاہتا تھا، اللہ نے اس کو اتنا ہی پست کر دیا. فَجَعَلَهُ فِي الدُّنْيَا مَدْحُورًا وَأَعَدَّ لَهُ فِي الْآخِرَةِ سَعِيرًا، اللہ نے اسے دنیا میں ذلیل و خوار بنا دیا اور آخرت میں اسے جہنم کا ایندھن بنا دیا. چنانچہ سورہ ہجر کی آیت نمبر 34 اور 35 میں اسی حقیقت کی طرف جملے، جو آخری جملہ ہے مولا کا کہ دنیا میں اس کو ذلیل و خوار کر دیا اور آخرت میں جہنم کا ایندھن بنا دیا، سورہ ہجر کی آیت نمبر 34 اور 35 میں اس حقیقت کی طرف اشارہ ہوا ہے کہ لَأَمْلَأَنَّ جَهَنَّمَ مِنْكَ. جب ابلیس سرکشی پہ اتر آیا اور خدا سے بحث کرنے لگا، خدا کے مقابلے میں جب آ گیا تو خدا نے اس سے کہا کہ نکل جا تو یہاں سے، فَإِنَّكَ فَخْرُجْ مِنْهَا فَإِنَّكَ رَجِيمٌ، تو راندے درگاہ ہے، نکل جا یہاں سے. اس کے بعد خدا نے اس سے کہا کہ لَأَمْلَأَنَّ جَهَنَّمَ مِنْكَ وَمِمَّنْ تَبَعَكَ أَجْمَعِينَ. اس سے پہلے ہے کہ فَخْرُجْ فَإِنَّكَ رَجِيمٌ وَإِنَّ عَلَيْكَ اللَّعْنَةَ إِلَى يَوْمِ الدِّينِ. نکل جا یہاں سے، تو راندے درگاہ ہے اور قیامت تک تجھ پر لعنت ہوتی رہے گی. اس کے بعد سورہ صاد آیت نمبر 85 میں اس کے جہنمی ہونے کا تذکرہ ہے. لَأَمْلَأَنَّ جَهَنَّمَ مِنْكَ وَمِمَّنْ تَبَعَكَ أَجْمَعِينَ. میں جہنم کو بھر دوں گا تجھ سے اور تیرے چیلوں سے، تیرے راستے پر چلنے والوں سے. دوسری بات جو یہاں پر عرض کرنا ہے، دوسرا تکبر کا ایک دوسرا نقصان جو بیان کرنا ہے. تکبر کا ایک نقصان تو یہ ہوا کہ تکبر ہی ہر گناہ کی جڑ ہے. اگر تکبر نہ ہوتا تو انسان شاید گناہ نہ کرتا. تکبر کا دوسرا نقصان یہ ہے کہ انسان حصول علم سے محروم رہ جاتا ہے. متکبر کبھی علم حاصل نہیں کر سکتا، کیونکہ متواضع اور منکسر المزاج انسان کو اگر کوئی بات معلوم نہیں ہوتی ہے تو وہ دوسروں سے معلوم کر لیتا ہے، جانکاروں سے پوچھ لیتا ہے اور اس طرح سے اپنے علم میں اضافہ کر لیتا ہے. لیکن اس کے برعکس مغرور اور متکبر انسان اپنی جھوٹی شان و شوکت سے دستبردار ہونے کو تیار نہیں ہوتا. نہ جانتے ہوئے جہالت کی زندگی بسر کرنا اسے منظور ہوتا ہے، مگر کسی کے سامنے زانوئے ادب تہ کر کے اپنی جہالت کو دور کرنا اسے منظور نہیں ہوتا ہے. علم و معرفت کا ایک حجاب اور اس راہ کی ایک بڑی رکاوٹ یہی تکبر ہے. تواضع و انکساری جہاں علم و دانش میں اضافے کا باعث ہوتی ہے، وہیں قبول حق میں بھی مددگار ثابت ہوتی ہے، اور تکبر قبول حق کی راہ میں رکاوٹ بن جاتا ہے. تواضع و انکساری اسلامی تعلیمات کا بنیادی حصہ ہے. مولا فرماتے ہیں الاسلام هو التسلیم. اسلام کیا ہے؟ خدا، پیغمبر اور حق کے سامنے سر جھکا دینا. لیکن مغرور اور متکبر انسان کبھی سر جھکانے کو تیار ہی نہیں ہوتا ہے. اسی لیے تکبر کا اسلام سے کوئی جوڑ نہیں ہے، بلکہ یہ صفت تکبر انسان کو دائرہ اسلام سے خارج کر کے کافر بنا دیتی ہے. متعدد آیتوں میں غرور و تکبر کی شدید مذمت کی گئی ہے اور اسے قبول حق کی راہ میں بڑی رکاوٹ قرار دیا گیا ہے. چنانچہ سورہ بقرہ کی آیت 87 میں ارشاد ہوتا ہے افکلما جاءکم رسول بما لا تہوی انفسکم استکبرتم. جب بھی تمہارے پاس رسول کوئی ایسا حکم لے کر کے آئے جو تمہارے نفس کو گوارا نہ تھا، جو تمہارے نفس کو پسند نہ تھا، استکبرتم، تو تم نے تکبر سے کام لیا. ففریقا کذبتم وفریقا تقتلون. اس تکبر کے باعث انبیاء کی آواز پر لبیک کہنے کے بجائے ان کی ہدایات کو قبول کرنے کے بجائے تم نے کچھ انبیاء کو جھٹلا دیا اور کچھ انبیاء کو قتل کرتے رہے. کیوں نہیں مانا؟ تکبر کی بنا پر، غرور کی بنا پر. تکبر کا تیسرا اہم نقصان یہ ہے کہ انسانی سماج کا نظام درہم برہم ہو جاتا ہے. لوگوں کے آپسی تعلقات تکبر کے باعث خراب ہو جاتے ہیں، جبکہ اس کے برعکس تواضع و انکساری انسانی سماج کے نظام کی بقا و سلامتی کی ضمانت ہے. تاریخ گواہ ہے کہ اکثر خونریز جنگوں کا سبب یہی غرور و تکبر، یہی گھمنڈ اور خود پسندی تھی. اپنے کو دوسری قوموں سے بہتر و برتر سمجھنا تھا. پہلی اور دوسری جنگ عظیم کی آگ اسی تصور نے بھڑکائی. نازی جرمنی اور اس کے سربراہوں نے یہ یقین کر لیا تھا کہ جرمن نسل تمام نسلوں سے برتر ہے، جس کے نتیجے میں جنگ کے شعلے بھڑک اٹھے اور وسیع پیمانے پر مختلف ملکوں میں انسانی، اقتصادی اور ثقافتی سرمایہ تباہ کر دیا گیا. آج ہمارے زمانے میں بھی اسی متکبرانہ مزاج کے باعث 5 ملکوں نے سیکورٹی کونسل میں ویٹو پاور حاصل کر کے تمام دنیا کا نظام درہم برہم کر دیا ہے. اسی متکبرانہ مزاج سے متاثر ہو کر امریکہ اور صہیونیت قتل و غارت، خونریزی اور سفاکیت کا ننگا ناچ رہی ہے. اگر ان کی حلق سے یہ بات اتر جائے کہ ہم سب بنی آدم ہیں اور مٹی سے پیدا ہوئے ہیں اور آدم مٹی سے پیدا ہوئے تھے، انتم بنو آدم و آدم من تراب، تو جنگ کے شعلے ہمیشہ کے لیے خاموش ہو جائیں گے. اسی لیے قرآن و احادیث میں تکبر کی شدت سے مذمت کی گئی ہے اور تواضع و انکساری کی مدح و ثنا کی گئی ہے. چنانچہ امام جعفر صادق علیہ السلام حدیث قدسی کو نقل فرماتے ہیں کہ اللہ جل شانہ کا ارشاد ہے کہ انا اقرب الناس الی اللہ المتواضعون، بے شک اللہ سے سب سے زیادہ وہ لوگ قریب ہیں جو متواضع ہیں، جو انکساری کے ساتھ لوگوں کے سامنے پیش آتے ہیں. ابعد الناس من اللہ المتکبرون، اور اللہ سے سب سے زیادہ دور وہی افراد ہیں جو تکبر کا شکار ہیں، جو لوگوں کے سامنے غرور و تکبر کے ساتھ پیش آتے ہیں. رسول خدا صلی اللہ علیہ وآلہ وسلم جناب ابو ذر غفاری کو خطاب کر کے ارشاد فرماتے ہیں، یا ابا ذر من مات وفی قلبہ مثقال ذرۃ من کبر، اے ابو ذر، جو شخص اس حال میں دنیا سے گزر جائے، اس حال میں اسے موت آ جائے کہ اس کے دل میں ذرہ برابر بھی غرور اور تکبر پایا جاتا ہو، لم یجد رائحۃ الجنہ، تو وہ انسان جنت کی خوشبو بھی نہیں سونگھ سکتا، الا ان یتوب قبل ذلک، مگر یہ کہ مرنے سے پہلے وہ توبہ کر لے. اگر توبہ کیے بغیر اپنے دل میں غرور و تکبر لیے ہوئے دنیا سے چلا گیا تو پھر وہ جنت کی امید نہ رکھے. یہاں البتہ یہ جان لینا بہت ضروری ہے کہ انسان میں تکبر کیوں پیدا ہوتا ہے، تکبر کا سبب کیا ہے اور اس کا علاج کیا ہے. جب سبب معلوم ہو جائے گا تو علاج خود بخود پتہ چل جائے گا. کیونکہ علاج کیا ہوتا ہے؟ بیماری کے سبب کو ختم کر دیجئے، بیماری ختم ہو جائے گی. دیکھیے، جس طرح سے انسان کا جسم بیمار ہوتا ہے، اسی طرح سے انسان کی روح بھی بیمار ہو جاتی ہے۔ تکبر انہی روحانی بیماریوں میں سے ایک بیماری ہے۔ جسمانی بیماریوں کی طرح روحانی بیماریوں کا بھی علاج ہے، اور البتہ ہر علاج میں پہلے بیماری کی وجہ اور اس کی جڑ کو سمجھنا ضروری ہوتا ہے تاکہ علاج آسان ہو جائے۔ تکبر میں انسان کیوں مبتلا ہوتا ہے؟ اس بیماری کا شکار کیوں ہو جاتا ہے؟ انسان جب تکبر کے وائرس میں مبتلا ہو جاتا ہے تو اس کے اندر تکبر پر یہ بیماری پیدا ہو جاتی ہے۔ جیسے آج کل خود کورونا کا وائرس ہے، مگر افسوس یہ ہے کہ کورونا کے وائرس کے خطرات سے تو دنیا کو آگاہ کر دیا گیا، لیکن تکبر کے وائرس کے خطرات سے ہمیں آگاہ نہیں کیا گیا۔ تکبر کے وائرس سے بچنے کا کوئی بندوبست نہیں ہے، کوئی انتظام ہماری نگاہوں کے سامنے نہیں ہے، ہم غافل ہیں۔ ہاں، کورونا کے وائرس سے بچنے کے لیے ہزار انتظام ہے، ساری سختیاں ہم برداشت کر لے رہے ہیں تاکہ کورونا کے وائرس میں مبتلا نہ ہو سکیں۔ اے کاش اس کا 10واں حصہ بھی ہم نے تکبر کے وائرس سے محفوظ رہنے کے لیے انجام دیا ہوتا۔ تکبر کی بیماری میں کیوں مبتلا ہوتے ہیں؟ اس بیماری میں مبتلا ہونے کی سب سے اہم وجہ یہ ہے کہ ہمارے پاس نہ خدا کی معرفت ہے، نہ اس کائنات کو ہم پہچانتے ہیں، اور نہ خود اپنی ذات کو پہچانتے ہیں۔ اگر ہمیں خدا کی پہچان ہوتی، اگر ہم اس دنیا کائنات کو پہچان رہے ہوتے، اگر ہمیں اپنی حقیقت معلوم ہوتی تو ناممکن تھا کہ ہمارے اندر یہ تکبر کا وائرس اثر کر پاتا۔ تکبر کا وائرس کیا ہے؟ اللہ کی معرفت نہ ہونا، کائنات کی معرفت نہ ہونا، خود اپنی معرفت نہ ہونا۔ ان تین امور کی صحیح معرفت نہ ہونے کی وجہ ہی سے تکبر کی بیماری پیدا ہوتی ہے، اور تکبر کا درخت جڑ پکڑتا ہے۔ انسان کو اگر اپنی کمایا حقیقت کا علم ہو جاتا، پتہ چل جاتا کہ ہماری حقیقت کیا ہے، ہماری حقیقت ایک بدبودار نطفہ ہے، ہماری ابتدا نطفہ، ہماری انتہا جیفا۔ اگر ہم اس عظیم کائنات سے آشنا ہوتے کہ کائنات کتنی عظیم ہے، اور ان دونوں کے خالق کی حقیقت معرفت ہمیں، حقیقی معرفت ہمیں حاصل ہو جاتی، تو ہم کبھی بھی تکبر جیسی بیماری کا شکار نہ ہوتے۔ دوسرا سبب جس کی بنا پر، دوسرا وائرس جس کی بنا پر ہمارے اندر تکبر کی بیماری پیدا ہوتی ہے، وہ ہے احساس کمتری، جو اظہار برتری کی شکل میں ظاہر ہوتی ہے۔ نفسیات کے ماہرین اس سلسلے میں کافی تفصیل سے گفتگو کرتے ہیں۔ اگر آپ کسی کو دیکھتے ہیں کہ وہ اپنے بڑائی جو ہے یہ جتا رہا ہے، بڑا ہے نہیں مگر اپنے کو بڑا بنا کر کے پیش کر رہا ہے۔ دیکھیے، بڑا ہونا برا نہیں ہے، اپنے کو بڑا سمجھنا برا ہے۔ بڑا ہونا اچھی بات ہے، اسلام بڑا بننے سے نہیں منع کرتا ہے، اپنے کو بڑا سمجھنے سے منع کرتا ہے۔ آج مشکل یہ ہے کہ وہ افراد جو اپنے کو بڑا سمجھتے ہیں، جو مبتلا تکبر ہیں، وہ بڑے ہیں نہیں، وہ بونے ہیں مگر اپنے کو طویل القامت سمجھتے ہیں۔ تو دوسرا سبب جو ہے وہ احساس کمتری ہے۔ امام جعفر صادق علیہ الصلوۃ والسلام اس حقیقت کو ان لفظوں میں اجاگر فرماتے ہیں: ما من رجل تجبر الا بذلۃ وجدها فی نفسہ۔ کوئی انسان تکبر میں مبتلا ہوا ہی نہیں مگر یہ کہ تکبر میں مبتلا ہونے سے پہلے اس نے اپنی ذات میں کسی ذلت کا احساس کیا، اپنے اندر کسی کمی کا احساس کیا. اب چاہے اس کا تعلق علمی کمی سے ہو، اقتصادی کمی سے ہو، نسلی پستی سے ہو، خاندانی احساس کمتری سے ہو، جو بھی وجہ رہی ہو. کسی پس خاندان سے اس کا تعلق تھا، غربت و تنگدستی کی زندگی یہ جو ہے بسر کر رہا تھا، علم کی دولت سے خالی تھا، جو بھی وجہ رہی ہو، کوئی نہ کوئی کمزوری کا احساس تھا اس کے. اسی احساس کمتری نے اسے اظہار برتری کی طرف قدم بڑھانے پر مجبور کر دیا اور وہ تکبر کا شکار ہو گیا. اس کا حل یہ ہے کہ ہم اپنے ایمان کو قوی بنائیں. ٹھیک ہے، ہم علمی اعتبار سے کمزور ہیں، اقتصادی اعتبار سے کمزور ہیں، پس خاندان میں ہم پیدا ہو گئے، تو کیا ہم اپنی اس کمی کا علاج نہیں کر سکتے؟ اس کا حل یہ ہے کہ اپنے ایمان کو مضبوط بنائیں. ایمان قوی اور خود کو اللہ سے جوڑ لینا یہ اس کا علاج ہے. جب انسان دائرہ ایمان میں داخل ہو جاتا ہے تو وہ اس حدیث قدسی کا مصداق بن جاتا ہے جہاں پر پروردگار ارشاد فرماتا ہے ما یسعنی ارضی ولا سمائی بل یسعنی قلب عبدی المومن. نہ زمین میں یہ گنجائش تھی، نہ آسمان میں گنجائش تھی کہ وہ ہمیں اپنے دامن میں لے لیتی. یہ گنجائش میرے مومن بندے کے قلب میں ہے. میرے مومن بندے کا قلب اتنا وسیع ہے کہ اس کا قلب میرا عرش بننے کی صلاحیت رکھتا ہے. میرا عرش بننے کی صلاحیت نہ زمین میں ہے، نہ میرا عرش بننے کی صلاحیت آسمان میں ہے. اللہ اکبر. دولت ایمان سے مالا مال ہونے کے بعد انسان کتنا عظیم بن جاتا ہے. اس کی ساری کمزوریاں، اس کی ساری کمیاں ختم ہو جاتی ہیں، اور ایمان کے دائرے میں داخل ہونے کے بعد انسان کے اندر احساس کمتری بھی ختم ہو جاتا ہے. ٹھیک ہے، میں غریب ہوں، میں کم علم ہوں، میں پس خاندان میں پیدا ہوا ہوں، میں بد شکل ہوں، تو کیا ہوا؟ میرا دل عرش خدا ہے. تیسرا سبب جس کی بنا پر انسان تکبر کی بیماری میں جو ہے مبتلا ہو سکتا ہے وہ خود غرضی اور حب ذات ہے. البتہ وہ حب ذات جو اعتدال سے ہٹ جائے، ورنہ حب ذات ایک ضروری چیز ہے، بس شرط یہ ہے کہ اعتدال سے خارج نہ ہو اور خود کو دوسروں سے برتر سمجھنے کا سبب نہ بنے، بلکہ تحب لنفسک ما تحب لأخیک. اپنی ذات سے محبت کریں لیکن اپنے لیے وہی پسند کریں جو اپنے دوسرے بھائیوں کے لیے ہمیں پسند ہے. حدیثوں میں ملتا ہے، حکم ہے کہ اپنے سے بڑے کو جب دیکھو تو کہو کہ شاید اس کی عبادت ہم سے زیادہ ہے. اپنے سے چھوٹے کو دیکھو تو کہو شاید اس کا گناہ ہم سے کمتر ہے، اور اگر برابر کے شخص کو دیکھو تو کہو شاید اس کی عبادت ہم سے زیادہ اور اس کا گناہ ہم سے کمتر ہے. خود جب ہم یہ تصور کریں گے، جب ہم یہ خیال کریں گے تو کبھی کسی سے اپنے کو بڑا تصور نہیں کریں گے اور تکبر کی بیماری میں مبتلا نہ ہو سکیں گے. تو تکبر سے بچنے کا علاج یہی ہے کہ دوسروں کو اپنے اوپر مقدم رکھنے کی مشق کریں. یہ کام ایک دو دن کا نہیں ہے، یہ پیہم عمل چاہتا ہے. ہمیشہ دوسروں کو اپنے اوپر مقدم رکھیں. کسی سے آمنا سامنا ہو گیا تو اسی توقع نہ رکھیں کہ پہلے وہ سلام کرے، کیونکہ ہمارے یہاں وہ ہے نا کہ چھوٹا بڑے کو سلام کرے گا. نہیں، سبقت لے جائیں سلام کرنے میں، اپنے کو اس سے چھوٹا سمجھے. تصور کریں کس کے گناہ کم ہیں، میرے گناہ زیادہ ہیں، اس کی عبادت زیادہ ہے، میری عبادت کم ہے، لہذا یہ مجھ سے افضل ہے، یہ مجھ سے برتر ہے. کسی برز میں اگر گئے ہیں، یہ توقع نہ رکھیں کہ لوگ ہمارے احترام میں کھڑے ہوں، ہم دوسروں کے احترام میں کھڑے ہو جائیں. اس طرح سے مشق کرتے کرتے ایک موقع وہ آ جائے گا کہ ہمارے اندر تکبر کا جراثیم پوری طرح سے ختم ہو جائے گا، مر جائے گا. خداوند متعال سے دعا ہے کہ خدا ہم سب کو اس خطرناک بیماری سے محفوظ رکھنے اور اس کے وائرس سے دور رہنے کی توفیق عنایت فرمائے. والسلام علیکم ورحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ.
عليك رسول الله. السلام عليك أمير المؤمنين. السلام عليك فاطمة الزهراء سيدة النساء العالمين. السلام عليك حسن المصطفى. السلام عليك أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفناك. عليك مني سلام الله قبل ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار ولا جعل الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. السلام عليك غريب الغرباء. السلام عليك معين الظروف الفقراء. السلام عليك مغيث الشيعة والزوارف من الجزاء. السلام عليك أبا الحسن علي الموسى الرضا. كن شفينا وشفي والدنا في الجزاء. صلوات الله على آبائك السبعة ومنك أربعة خلفاء مثل المعصوم الجميل ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك صاحبي أستاذ زمان الأمان من زمان شر الشيطان. السلام عليك شريك القرآن. السلام عليك يا أنس الجان. أطول الله تعالى فرجك وصلى الله تعالى مخرجك وظهورك وجعلنا من سارك وعنك. السلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. اللهم كل وليك للحجة بن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم صل على